It's the ambition hour, baby. It's the ambition hour, baby. It's the ambition hour, baby.
Yo, and welcome to the Ambition Hour podcast. It is your girl, Claudia Renee, on your airwaves, and this is episode 198.
Yo. It's
Hello, and welcome, beautiful people, yet again to another episode of the Ambition Hour podcast. I am your host, Claudia Renee, on your airwaves. I am joined by my co host, of course, as always, Have 600 in the
Yes,
building.
yes, yes. You know what it is.
Super excited to have him here. We also have a guest that will be joining us today. Without further ado, her name is Rashida. So make sure you guys give her a big Ambition Hour round of applause.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes, and she is the author of Sabotage Silhouettes, which is Molding Messenger's publishing company book. I'm super excited. She is the third author that we've had on the podcast, so I am super happy. Rashida, thank you so much for joining us. You're joining us from Orlando, correct?
Yes. Thank you for
Awesome.
having me.
Of course. Listen, whenever Jax hits me up about anybody coming on here, it's like no questions asked. So I'm really excited to have you here. Rashida, something that we always do every single episode is we start the episode with saying what we are grateful for. So since you are our guest, can you please go ahead and share with us what you are grateful for this week?
Well, this week and every week, I'm grateful for my son. I have an 11-year-old son, and he is just amazing. Like, he's been my motivation and my inspiration, and I'm forever grateful for him.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I did read in the book. You did have like a, what is it? Not an acknowledge, like a dedication to him or something like that. Am I correct? That you wrote
Well,
something about him.
yes, so in my acknowledgments, I definitely had to thank him.
There
But
you
I
go.
did, there's actually a poem, I believe it's the second poem.
Yeah,
It was dedicated to
to
him.
him. Oh, yeah, that's awesome. We're gonna talk a little bit more about that later. Hav, did you want to share what you're grateful for this week?
I want to I be grateful for, mindset, new opportunities. I got some bad news basically earlier this day that kind of beat me up, and I kind of just felt like the world is crashing and burning. And then little behold unknown, a couple hours later, I get a call that just kind of, basically didn't get a job. And then I got a call for another job right then and then that same day. So sometimes we can't sweat the little stuff. We just got to be on task, keep our head up. We can't let the little things just like break us down and fuck up our whole day.
Amen.
What about you, Claudia? What are you grateful for?
This week I'm gonna have to say I'm grateful for Jax because he has been one of the people that has brought authors onto the podcast, and that's something that like I wanted. And just like having that connection with him and seeing like what he's done for other people and how he's just a driving force for a lot of people accomplishing their goals, their dreams. And not only that, like all of the books that I read from Molding Messengers and the guests that have been on the podcast, all of the books have touched me and like completely different ways. And I'm just very grateful for Jax and Molding Messengers. So I had to say that because
I'm
Yeah,
grateful
tell me
for
all
them
about
as
it.
well. Definitely grateful for them.
listen, Jax is everywhere. It's so inspiring to see because I've known him already for some time now, and like just after a while of just like seeing the growth of what he's done, and I believe that Molding Messengers are like that his whole like that part of his career. I want to say that it's been like 4 years since he started that because when we were celebrating our third year anniversary, he was on here and he was saying that he was celebrating it as well. So I'm really excited about that. So, okay. So the book that you have is called Sabotage and Silhouettes. Now I read in the beginning because I read the introduction. I love when books have introductions. So I was really happy that you had an introduction because you actually go into like the whole sabotage and silhouettes. Now, I don't want to butcher it, so I want you to go ahead and explain why you decided to come up with that name. What does it mean to you? Was it something that you instantly were able to come up with, or how was that process?
The title came about, I want to say I was maybe three-fourths the way done with the book. I actually had like two other names that I had thought of for it. But I wanted something catchy. I wanted something that when people looked at it, they're like, "Ooh, what is this about?"
Yeah.
And I actually was going through a period of growth, I guess you could say. And I noticed that a lot of the trauma I had been through caused me to sabotage a lot of relationships, friendships, especially moving, because I'm from Miami. So I lived in Miami my whole life. I just moved to Orlando about a year and a half ago. And when I moved here, I noticed that I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of, people that I had been around for a long time. And I was like, well, is it me? Like I had to self-reflect. And so a lot of that self-sabotage goes into the book. And then I wanted something that went with that. And I just came up with Silhouettes. And Silhouettes is basically, I'm sure we all know that silhouettes are like dark images with light around them. So in the introduction, I actually go into detail about that. Yeah. I lost my mom in 2019. I lost my brother in 2015. And I never really got a chance to grieve them. I never really got a chance to deal with that trauma because when my brother passed, I had to be strong for my mom. When my mom passed, I had to be strong for my son. So it was a difficult time and I became very dark inside, but I felt like nobody really knew. There's actually a poem in the book where I talk about, I wasn't myself for months and nobody noticed. And so that's where the silhouettes part came in. So I just put them together and it's
I love personally. I love the title because, like you said, it's catchy. Because someone thinks like sabotage and then silhouettes, and then the two words separately are so impactful in their own way. Because even like a silhouette could be something sexual, it could be something like that. But like how the way that you explained it with the darkness and sometimes like what you don't want to see. A poem when you were talking, kind of it ringed off in my mind. The one about that you don't want it to rain because you kind of like want to like hide like in the shade of the sun or something like that. I just read that poem. So that was something that like when you were speaking, that was something that like hit my head because that's something that really does happen. Like you move somewhere or you stop doing something, or even like when you stop working somewhere, you feel like you had a connection with some of the people there. And then all of a sudden you leave the place and you don't even talk to those people anymore. And all that you thought was there is no longer there. And then on top of the fact that, you've lost, your brother and your mother within, what is it, like a 5-year span, I would say?
Yeah.
And I know, is it your mom's birthday is coming up, correct? Or is it, it's the 26th, right? Yes. And it being so close to that, girl. How do you feel with that date coming up? I know it's been what, a couple of, it's been 9, because she passed away in 2019, correct?
Yes. So this will be her
like
third birthday. I really honestly I try not to think about it. Just because I don't want to go back into that dark place. I wouldn't say that I'm over it. That's something that you never get over. You never move past that. It's always with me. It'll be days that I'll just start crying for no reason. And I'll realize later it's, I don't have my mom. Like when I go through things, I can't call my mom. And she's the first, even with the book, I was like, I wish she was here because I'm sure she would be so proud.
She is proud.
Thank you. So I try not to focus on it. But when the day approaches, a couple days before, I start to feel it. But my older brother lives here, so we always try to celebrate, do a barbecue or something small, because she always liked to do stuff like that. So we always try to do something just to, commemorate her.
Yeah. The poem that you wrote and about her, and that's how I found out about her death, to me, that is like one of the most transparent piece of writing I have ever read. And you put it so like eloquently, like the words, first of all, the way that you put words together is like so beautiful to me. I'm gonna read you one of my favorite poems because it's so good. But I mean, without trying to hide away from this, the poem that is about your mom is a suicide attempt. And to me, that was something that like really hit me, because like how you said, like you're like how can you share something that you want to share with the most important person in your life when they're no longer here, and they chose that, you know, and that's like something that's super hard. And another thing that I liked was that you had the suicide prevention hotline number in your book, because it's something else that's, you know, super important as well. And I feel with like some of the things that have been happening with I want to say Miss America, or like Miss USA, I don't remember which one it was, but like even that, like a lot more people have been speaking more about suicide and things like that. How has something like that impacted your life? So like I wouldn't know how to feel, say, or anything. And look at you, you're standing in front of us, you're an author, your book is gonna drop next month, and like against all odds, like how does that feel?
It's bittersweet. Honestly, that's the best word I could use to describe it. It's bittersweet. 'Cause my brother committed suicide, my mom committed suicide. And so it's hard, it's sad because they're not here to celebrate it with me. But in a sense, I don't know if I would be here if those things didn't happen.
Yeah.
And so it sucks. Obviously it sucks because my brother was like, I always say that my brother was my soulmate.
Oh,
He
I say
always,
the
I
same
always,
thing.
I
Sorry, I
always
say the
felt,
same thing.
and it's so weird because with him, like I always felt safe. I felt like
Mm.
not untouchable, but if I needed anything or anything like that, I could always call him. I always felt safe. And once he passed, it's hard to find someone that you feel that safety with.
Yeah.
And especially experiencing these things, it's hard to be vulnerable with people for them to understand what I've gone through. So it's definitely tough because they're the two people that, besides my son, that I would have wanted to share this with.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know they see me, I know that they're proud, but it's not the same.
It's not the same. And you know, our hearts go out to you, to them. And like I said, I know that they're very proud of you. I also know that you had a stillbirth. You share a lot of like pain and like honesty in this poetry book. And to me, like when I spoke to Jax, he did of course, like, you know, give me a little bit about your background information. But when I read the book, I didn't expect it to be that much, not in your face, but that much just like transparent. Like, this is who I am. This is the words that I'm going to use to express how I'm feeling. And I'm going to make sure that I'm honoring these people that were a big part of my life, but are no longer a part of my life. And I know that it's been quite some time since the stillbirth. And just like, there's just so much that you have experienced when it comes to loss and grief. And it makes so much sense as to why I want to say it's like the third chapter, that there's like, it's like that's where like this, like the silhouette, like the darkness kind of comes into the book. And you kind of like see you more, instead of just an author, but like as a person, as a woman who loves hard and who unfortunately loses as well, but is also trying to find the queen that is already within, but it's just like a constant thing. I feel like as women that we're constantly going through, like trying to be the best, you know, mother, the best daughter, the best sister, the best woman, the businesswoman, the this, the that. And we're always having to do that. So on those days that you just don't feel up to it, what is something that you do to like get you to snap out of it?
All right. Like, honestly, I know it probably sounds cliche, but after my losses, I had a lot of people tell me, you need to go to therapy. You need to see somebody. You need to talk to someone. And in the beginning, I wasn't ready. I was like, I don't know. I have a minor in psychology, so it kind of helps that I do have a little bit of that background, and I have a very close friend who's a therapist. But you have to be ready for that. And so my therapy became writing. So when I go through things, or I'm having a bad day, or I'm just feeling a certain way, I just sit down and I'm just like, let me just get it out, and I'll write. And typically, sometimes it doesn't lead to anything, and then other times it leads to a book. But yes, I have a ton of unfinished poems. I'm even working on the second book now, because there's so much that I want to share, and the feedback that I've been getting, my friends tell me, oh my gosh, you're really just putting out there what we go through as women, like even the embarrassing moments, you know, all the L's that we take as women. And they're like, you're speaking for all of us. And that was really the purpose of me publishing, because I could have just wrote and did the therapy part for myself. But I just, for one, I really wanted to spread the suicide awareness, because before this, I had never experienced anything to do with suicide. Yeah. And then once you go through it, you realize how common it is. And it's a struggle for the people who are still here. And it's also something that you have to learn to understand. And I think a lot of people think when someone commits suicide, they're selfish. But I have a totally different perspective on it. So I know I'm going off on a tangent. I'm sorry.
Girl, no, listen.
That's a podcast.
That's a podcast. You go
I was like, wait, what was the question?
No. You answered the question and you continue to elaborate on that. And I love that. Because like how you said, like one thing is talking about it and everything. Cause I'm a big writer as well. Like I haven't written a poem in a while, but I used to write poems when I was in high school. I love hip hop. So the flowing of words and putting them together and how beautiful that sounds and everything like that. Like, of course. So I know how much writing helps me. So for you to write and then also want to share it with other people, because for you, like how you said, like you're not the only one who goes through it. That's the thing that a lot of us forget, is that we sometimes think that we're going through something by ourselves, or that we're the only ones who have ever experienced this type of pain. And it's not true. We are one of many that go through different pains, that lose people, whether it be through suicide or through, health complications, whatever it may be. We all experience loss. We all experience heartbreak. We all experience love. We all experience, happiness and all of those things. So that's something that, whatever works for you is going to work for you. And this is what has worked for you. So I have some of your poems that I have bookmarked on my phone. And we're going to go a little bit through some of the names. So some of the ones that I liked was love language, because I'm a really big person on love languages and understanding the love language, because I feel like a lot of things get misconstrued when you don't know your partner's love language and when you don't know yours. Another one is patient with me. You give me butterflies, because of course. The kinds of love is another one that I really, really like. And I'm sharing these names so those that are listening, when you go through and read the poems, and you can see like what Rashida, what bars she was spitting. So because I know you also do like videos of you reciting your poems, and that's how I started seeing your poems, and knowing that you were gonna be dropping the book was because of that. So I was really excited that it was like a poetry book and things like that. I have other ones, like I have the milk in his coffee, girl.
It's one of my favorites.
Right? They're so good.
Yeah.
They're so good. The milk in my coffee one was, hold on, is this the one? No, but that one, listen, I love freaky poems. I ain't gonna hold nobody. I love them. Like, listen, give me all of that. Another one is How to Love You Patiently, Red Flags. No, thank you. The one that I liked, hold on. I liked Home a lot as well. The Remy Straight one.
I actually wrote Home, like, I want to say maybe in like 2007. That's a very old poem.
That's so long.
I started writing in high school, and I still have all my poetry books from high school. And so I wanted to like fill the book more, and I was like, well, let me see if I have anything old that I like. And so I threw a couple in there, but Home was like,
I like that one. I like the Remy Straight because even though I like Hennessy Straight, which is cognac, so I was just like, oh, I fuck with this poem.
And every poem, I'll be honest, every poem is most likely about a specific person. I didn't name them all, but every time, because like I said, I've been writing forever. Yeah. So anytime I was like in love or in deep like or got hurt, I wrote a poem about it. So
yeah, I have a lot of them bookmarked. I can't even go through all of them, but one of my favorite.
I like that though. When I was in deep like.
Because I don't want to say I was in love all those times. Deep like, or lust.
Yeah.
I be in deep like a lot.
Yeah.
One of my favorite ones, and it's funny because it's untitled. That one is such a
That's a throwback also.
yeah,
That's a
no,
really
that one is really, really, really good. Let me read the first like stance. It says, he's slowly flowing through my every motion like lotion on my skin. He's created a potion out of sin, making me wonder where he's been. Girl.
And then on my juices, he seduces and reproduces,
Oh,
reaches
see, she's
into my
keep going.
soul, giving me feelings that I don't want to feel again.
Yeah, no, that poem goes hard. There's one that I screenshot. Hold on, let me see if I can find it real quick because this one gets me. It says, "You make me better, make me wetter, make me want to write you love letters, girl." I love it.
That's that deep like.
That's that deep like.
Very
Exactly.
deep and like.
That's that deep like. So something that I like, okay, because I wrote this down because I wanted to make sure that I said it how I felt it when I felt that moment. The balance in chapter 2 of love and an instability in a relationship or dating or whatever that isn't for you. Because sometimes like you're with somebody, you like them, you're in deep like, you're feeling all of these feelings, and then there's a part of you that's just like, this isn't for me though, or this isn't supposed to go further, not because you don't want it to, but because the other person is showing the red flags, is showing that they're not completely committed to what it is that they want to do. Something else that I got from the book is that like sex and love making, I guess, because, you know, sex, love making is the same thing. Well, not always, but it's something that is beautiful in a relationship and something that a lot of people want and yearn for, but most people are afraid of it. So that's something that I kept seeing like in chapter 2. That's one of my favorite chapters. I want to say, is that one of the longest ones? One of the longest
I believe
chapters?
so.
Yeah.
That's the one with all the mushy stuff.
Yeah.
the love and sex and
The
stuff.
love and sex. And then that's something that I noticed is like, because I want to say you talk about like, you know, like having sex for like 2 to 3 hours or like wanting to like lay up with the person and things like that. And that's something that I liked because, well, number one, that's something like how I said, a lot of us, we want that, but we don't really communicate it. And also because we're in a generation where it's like not a one person, you know, you don't get a full of one person because sometimes they're talking to, you get half a man. Yeah, you don't get the full man. You don't get the full experience sometimes because he's probably dipping in something else or he's not emotionally available and things like that. So that was something that I was just like, when I talked to her, like I have to tell her this about that chapter because I feel like that's something, like I said, people are just so afraid to talk about, and you were just super open about that. And then you even call it like a strong like, which I like that. I like that term.
That's the name of the episode.
And I actually titled the chapter Sacrifice because I feel like as women, when we go into situations or we love someone, we sacrifice so much of ourselves for that person, especially our bodies. And so it's just, that's basically what it is. Like, it's a sacrifice chapter. It's you know, the men that you deal with who don't want to give you all of themselves. They only want to give you a piece of them. And most of the time that piece is sex. Like you said, they're not emotionally available. They don't want relationships. Everyone is so accessible these days with social media that they just feel like, well, I can have 10 girls. All these 10 girls are going to deal with me, knowing that I'm probably dealing with 10 other girls and they're still going to deal with me. Yeah. So it's really a sacrifice when you're basically like a hopeless romantic, when you really want that real love, especially at my age. Like, I'm about to be 36. So I do want to get married and I do want to, you know, have a family with a man, but I want a whole man. I don't want half a man. And so I feel like I've sacrificed so many years of trying to find that I'm just in a place where I can't sacrifice anymore. I have to, it's either you give it all to me, I can have all of you, or I don't want any of you.
It's like, it's like that soundbite that they're using from Empire. I gotta put me first, Lucius. I gotta put me first.
You get to a point where you're you're always putting other people first. Like I'm big on like always concerned about other people's feelings, especially when I'm in a relationship. But I feel like if I'm always walking on eggshells for you and you're not doing the same for me, like I'm getting the short end of the stick. I'm not gonna be happy like ever because I'm running behind you trying to make you happy. And so it has to be an equal exchange. It has to be 50-50. It has to. At this point, it has to. We can't settle. We can't.
First of all, you do not look 36, so
Thank you.
I had to go ahead and say that. You do not look 36. You looked at least I'm 32, so at least you look that or a little. I thought you were maybe a little younger. So you go, girl. Okay, so now that we know a little bit more about you, your poems. I want to know, what type of music do you listen to? Are there any rappers that like kind of like what is it, inspired you to write or anything like that?
You used to watch the Def Jam Poetry Jam type shit?
I mean, I've always been like, I love hip hop, but I'm old, so I love R&B. I love R&B. I'll listen to an old school 90s playlist. You saw that kind of love. I want that 90s R&B. So definitely that. So back, I mean, I wouldn't say like a hip hop artist inspired me, but I mean, there are artists now that I really relate to, like, especially coming out of Miami. I'm gonna plug him in anyways. Major Nine. I love Major Nine. I don't know if you've ever listened to his music, but it's just when I hear certain artists, I just feel like they speak to my soul. And Major Nine, like I feel like he does what I do. Like he puts his all into his music. And so it's listening to his music is relatable. Maybe I can't relate to everything that he's saying, but the feeling, I can feel it. And so I like artists like that, like, you know, Tupac. You can feel it in his music that he cares about what he's talking about. And so I wouldn't say anybody inspired me, but yeah, definitely an R&B girl. And
I love R&B. I'm a hip hop girl, but I also love R&B. I'm actually going to an R&B party this weekend. And it's so much fun because listen, like it is literally, you have to come because they have it monthly. They have it once a month and they play like old school R&B. They'll play like R&B from like the 90s, a little bit of the 2000s, a little bit from now, but it's mainly like that type of that R&B because it's like a grown and sexy type of vibe and things like that. Yeah, listen, I love it. I'm telling you, if you come down and you want to go, we can go. We can do it. We can make it a thing because it's a really dope vibe. I've been to 2 of them already. So the kinds of love, I wanted to go ahead because you did mention that, and hold on. I want to say the whole poem, but I don't want to butcher it.
The kind of love, I actually, I recorded that one. That was the first poem I actually posted on my Instagram.
Oh, on your Instagram. So then well, you'll go ahead and share your Instagram later, but I'm going to, cause what she said was, so I'm going to go ahead and read part of the poem, the last part of the poem. And it goes like this. The kind of love that's like a 90s R&B song, that Boys to Men, Jodeci, Jagged Edge kind of love, that 112, Tyrese, Keith Sweat kind of love, my sweet lady, my peaches and cream, that let's get married kind of love. You know, the kind of love that lasts forever. Make it last forever. Sorry. The kind of love that got me twisted over you, takes me to the end of the road with you. The kind of love that fights through 4 minutes like Avant. That's the kind of love that I want. Girl, where you put those words together? How you hear these bars? So yeah, that one. Listen, I'm really excited for a lot of people to to read this book. When is it that it? I know it drops next month, right? Is it the 13th? Yes, is that correct? The 15th. I was kind of close. Are you nervous?
I don't think that it's really hit me yet. I think just because the process has been, I want to say it's been long, but the time has just been flying. So I think we started the process in October. And I had it set that I wanted it to release in March because my birthday is in March. So it actually releases 2 days before my birthday.
So your birthday's the 17th?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
So, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm nervous, but I would just say it hasn't really hit me yet. Probably when it gets closer to the date, I'll be like, oh my God.
Well, I have a copy of the book, but I'm for sure gonna buy it. So I always have to like support because I feel like that's the way that we push each other as a culture, as a community. Like, listen, if you got a book, I'm gonna get it. Like, not just because you know you were on the podcast or anything like that. It's just that's just how we move forward, like helping one another. Like you being on this podcast is helping me. It's helping me mentally. Of course, it's helping me with you know my platform, but. Yeah, you're actually, I don't know if you heard earlier, you're part of episode 198, which is insane.
I know, I was like, wow.
Like we've done 198 episodes and each time is just like crazy. So I wanted to ask you, because this is a question that I love asking, and it's what advice would you give your 17-year-old self?
Publish now.
The what?
Publish now. Publish at 17. Because I always think, I'm like, what if I would have published like right after high school or like when I was in college the first time? Like who knows where I would be now? No, but in all honesty, I probably would tell my 17-year-old self to be more selfish. Put myself first, because I feel like I have sacrificed so much of myself for other people, and I don't feel like I always get the same in return, and it sucks. It's like, it's hurtful, especially for people that you really, really love and you really care about, and to like realize after it's too late that they don't have that same love for you. It's hurtful. So definitely I would tell myself to be selfish. Put myself first.
I agree with that. Cause I feel like when you're 17 years old, you're trying to please everybody around you, and it's so hard because you go into adulthood trying to do the same exact thing, and then no one tells you to not do it. Like you actually have to do that work yourself in order for you to know that, so that when you do I feel like after like a certain, I don't know, for me, I learned to put myself first probably like when I was like 24, 25 years old. That's when I learned that little cheat code. Around what time do you feel like that you learned that you had to like put yourself first, and self-development and self-care and things like that?
So I want to say the same age, but I can't because I actually had my son at 24, 25. So I was pregnant for like forever. So going from adolescence into young adults, and then having a kid, it's like, where's the time to put yourself first? There was no time. So even now, like I can't put myself first because I have to put my son first. But I'm in more of a stable position to be more selfish now. I don't have certain responsibilities that I had at, that age. My son is 11, so he's more self-sufficient. So I feel like maybe when I'm 40, that's when I'll really be able to put myself first. And I hate to say it, but I just feel like everybody's journey in life is different. So I have friends that are my age who don't have kids that want kids. And so they were selfish in their 20s and early 30s, and then they're going to go into their 40s not being able to be selfish. And for me, it's going to be the opposite. So I will be the mom that's on the beach in Jamaica sipping my margarita while my son is in college, and that will be my selfish time. But for now, I mean, I'm in a good space. I feel like I'm in a position where I can put myself first as much as possible.
Yeah.
And that was a big part of me publishing the book. I needed something to focus on. I needed something that was for me, that I wasn't doing for other people. And so it's a huge personal accomplishment. It was a huge personal goal. And I'm so grateful for Jax and his team because they made the process so easy. All I had to do was write. That's all I had to do, and just sign approval stuff,
Literally.
But they did everything, and they're so amazing. And I've already told Jax, you're doing my second book, so be prepared. This is going to be a lifelong professional relationship. Yes.
That
definitely.
is so true, because I helped somebody publish their book with Molding Messengers, so I know how easy and smooth and how understanding and how accommodating and all of the above, and the communication, everything is just with that team. So for anybody who's listening who wants to publish a book, listen, you gotta
Molding
go.
Messengers.
Molding Messengers. You have to, like, don't even think about it. What is your favorite part about being a mom?
My favorite part about being a mom, I would say, is the unconditional love that my son gives me. So I know how people always cliche, and they're like, oh, like Valentine's Day is coming up. Oh, all the girls are going to post, my son is the only man that matters and stuff like that. But it's not until you have a child. And for me, it's especially a boy. I can't speak on having a girl, but it's just the unconditional love. Like, it doesn't matter if he does something he's not supposed to do and I yell at him. 2 minutes later, he's like hugging me, mommy, I love you. So that's huge. You can't get that from anyone else.
Yeah. I read in your book, and when you were doing the acknowledgments about him, and I've read and heard this term so many times, but for some reason, when I read it in your book, I felt it a little more, which was my heart in human form. Like, I don't know why it was just so, like, I felt it was so much. I don't know if because it was a poetry book. I don't know if it's because what you were saying before, like everything that you said about him and how you felt about him. And to me, like, I feel like women who feel that way about their son or about their kids or anything like that, like, this is like there's women that say that this is my first love. And I feel like people who want to judge that or say anything, usually it's the internet. Everybody got an opinion about everything, or want to say something about, how people or who people want to love. But I feel like it's true, because sometimes, like, you can go your whole life even being with somebody and loving them. But there's like, I don't have any kids, so I don't know how that is. But I can only imagine, like, how it is to literally give life to somebody who was inside of you for 9 months, who knows the sounds of your heartbeat, and to feel when that baby is born and through the rest of the years of its life, to feel like this is literally the love of my life. This is literally the person who I love the most, because I will literally do anything for this person. So I can see why that's something that, like, you can say, or like, even like how you're saying, like, it's a cliche. Like, I believe that it's just the truth and people want to make it a cliche. So
Definitely. I feel like, not to put them on blast, but I feel like it's mostly men who say that, because men will never understand. Even men who have kids, they'll never understand what it is to be a mom. They'll never understand the love that a woman has for her child, because they didn't carry the kid. They didn't push them out or get cut to have them come out of them. And so it's an attachment, and I can't speak for every mother-child relationship, because I know there's some that are not so best, great.
Yeah.
But when you have this life that you have to care for, like, if I don't do it, who else is gonna do it?
Yeah, he can't do it himself either.
Right. And so you have to teach them, and you have to help them through everything, and you have to love them so that when they become adults, they know how to love. It's a lot of people that are, I don't know if I can say this on your podcast, but it's a lot of fucked up people out here that don't know how to love because they were never loved properly. And having a child, a lot of my parenting comes from the things I didn't like that my mom did when she raised me and my brothers. And so, don't get me wrong, my mom loved us. Her whole goal in life was to be a mother and to have kids. And she raised us very well. She raised 3 kids very well. But there's things that she did as a parent that probably her parents did that she felt like, this is how I'm supposed to raise my kids, that I didn't want to do with my son. And there's things that she didn't do that I did want to do with him. So one of the biggest things is being honest with my son, because God forbid something happens to me tomorrow, the one thing that my son could say is that I taught him about life, real life, not, there's things you don't learn in school. There's things your parents don't want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
And so, like, even the sex talk, my mom never had the sex talk with me, ever. Like, I don't even know how I learned about sex, probably from my friends at school. But with him, like anytime he has a question, he comes to me and I'm honest with him.
Yeah.
Because you have to be transparent with these kids. If you as a parent are not honest with your kid, they're gonna learn it from someone else. They're gonna learn it from the kids at school who are learning it from someone else. The information is probably off the wall crazy.
It's misinformation.
So, yes, definitely. Or they're learning it from the internet. Like the internet is so toxic, for lack of a better word, that I just wanted to be as honest and transparent with him as I could so that he learns life. I don't want him to just learn math and just learn how to read. I want him to learn life so that he can go out in the world and be okay.
Yeah.
So.
I was reading All About Love by Bell Hooks, and that was something that she shared as far as like love goes, is that we as kids, our parents loved us or showed us love in a way that as adults we see it, and then we also start to believe that that's the way to love. So we have to kind of like unlearn certain things. Like parents, I can't speak for all parents, but this was an example in the book, was that some parents show love by shaming their child. Like shaming them into like, oh no, I thought you were better than that. You know what I mean? Oh no, like I'm only saying this because I love you and I just want what's best for you.
Or I expected more from you.
I expected more from you. Like, you know, like, and they don't say that they're ashamed of you, but they're saying that, and they're saying that they're shaming you in a way because they love you. And then so when you grow up into your adulthood, you have to kind of like break that type of love, because that's really not love.
It's definitely not. And the hardest thing to do is to unlearn. So when my son was little, I went back to school. I went back to college to finish my degree. And like I mentioned before, I have a minor in psych. So a big part of my school, my coursework was like psychology of adolescence, because I was like, I've never been a mother before. Like, and there's things that I want to know that I didn't learn.
Yeah.
So I took those courses so that I could learn those things as he grows up. And a lot of it had to do with like, you know, shaming your kids, and there's different phases. It's psychology, like it's textbook.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely understand that. So anytime, like even if I yell at my son, 5 minutes later, I'm talking to him, I'm explaining to him, look, this is, you know, you can't do this because of whatever the reason.
Yeah.
So he doesn't feel like, well, you just making me feel bad for doing something. I don't know what I did wrong or why you're telling me I'm wrong. So I definitely try to explain it to him so that he understands the you know, the meaning behind me yelling at him.
Yeah,
he's over there dancing.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of, and something that we're also really big on here on the podcast is like breaking generational curses. And something like, okay, our parents might have broken some of them that, you know, came from their parents, but then I feel like with us, we're breaking basically from our grandparents, because it's like 3 generations almost. It's like our great grandparents, our grandparents, and then our parents, and then us. And so we're basically breaking all of that because we're having to relearn how to communicate, because that's something else that I feel like the generation before, like how I'm speaking for myself and my experience, and I talked a little bit about this in the episode last week, of like communication isn't the best thing that I learned from my parents. Like I had to learn that on my own. I had to learn that that was something that was important, not just in the relationship I have with my parents, but the relationship I even have with my brother. Like he's a person that I can communicate the best with. And there's, you know, other relationships like platonic relationships that you have to communicate with as well. So that's just something that I felt like it was like my responsibility to have to break that, because I felt like nobody was communicating with my mom about most of what was happening in her childhood. You know, she was having to navigate all of those things by herself. She was shamed into not speaking about certain things. So for me, I felt like it was almost like my duty, my job to be able to break that and be the one who is just like, you know what? No, we're going to talk about this, and we're not going to yell at each other. We're going to talk in a normal tone, because you can say a lot and you can even express your anger without yelling, I feel. Of course, you want to pop off sometimes, but that's for sure something that I feel. Where is your family from?
My dad was from Pakistan and my mom is Irish American. So my dad moved here when he was like 13.
Oh, okay.
But my mom was born and raised in Miami.
Okay.
And I was born and raised in Miami.
Nice. How is it that you say your last name?
Basaria.
Basaria. Girl, I promise you, my Spanish ass was gonna say it the Spanish way. And I was just like, you cannot just do that to people's last names. So okay, it's a Basaria. 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 Okay. So oh my goodness. I wanted to ask you, because I like asking guests this. Do you have any questions for me or anything that you would like to ask me or like to add or anything like that?
Now you put me on the spot. Nothing that I can really think of.
Okay.
I have a pair of questions here. I wanted to know, like, what's your ideal, like, you set out to write, right? You're like, okay, today I'm gonna write between 9 and 10. What's like your ideal setup, or what do you like to do? No, nothing. It just comes out.
Yeah, I don't ever sit down and say, okay, I'm gonna write from this time to this time, or I have to write this many words today. I just write when I literally have notes in my phone. My phone is full of poems. Even if I'm working and I get an idea, I'm like, let me jot it down. Like even last night, I was trying to go to sleep and something came to me and I was like, damn it, right now. And I had to get up and I had to write it. So I don't have any like set schedule or anything like that. I just write when it comes to me. It would be so random. Like I could be in Publix and I'll just stop and I'll be like,
no, that's awesome. That's awesome. I could relate to that. Do you feel like in sacrifices, do you feel like sometimes or in your life that you like some of those sacrifices is because of your art? Not that you intentionally like ruin relationships or become toxic to write a poem, but do you feel like sometimes like it's like a sacrifice to get that good poem, so to speak, or to get that creativity?
No, because I don't use one to inspire the other. It just kind of happens.
Perfect. So
I just write based on my life experiences. It's like I don't force anything, just so I can be like, oh, let me write this. It's definitely just natural life experiences, whatever I go through. A lot of the poems won't necessarily be from one experience. It'll be from different experiences. And I'll just put them together, or it'll just be like how I feel, like the kind of love that I wrote, because that's the kind of love that I want, So it's like, I'll sit there and I'll be like, okay, well, what's inspiring me right now? And I'll be like, well, this is what I want to talk about. And then I'll just sit there and like feel it. I won't necessarily think about the words. I'll just feel it. And whatever I feel, I put it on the page.
Yeah.
Love it.
I love that too. Something that I keep thinking of is, do you usually write the poems like all at once? Like the one poem, do you write it all at once, or is it like in parts, or is it just like from an idea stems this, and how does that go?
Yeah, like the Publix poem. Do you write it out tonight, or like, or like you get back to it?
So every poem is different. Some poems I could literally sit there and write it in 5 minutes. And then other poems, I have like poems from probably like 2 or 3 years ago that are unfinished. So it's just, I'll go back to them and be like, okay, do I have anything for this today? And if I have it, I have it. If I don't, I don't. Yeah. So it depends. Some of them take time and some of them don't.
And then I get one last one. There's probably mothers that are listening to this podcast, or inspiring writers. How as far as time management, or I know you said that you wrote some of these poems, several years ago. But what advice would you give that person who is like, I guess, not like trying to publish, like you're giving the advice like, hey, publish now. Now that you've done it, but what advice would you give to someone who's like, I'm not sure, is anyone gonna read these words, like type of thing?
So that was exactly my feelings before I published. I was like, who's gonna read this? Nobody knows me. Who cares? Do it on your time. You have to be ready, because I could have easily published when I was 17 or 18 or 25. But this was the time when I felt ready. And even though I say I would have told my younger self to publish earlier, it's like I said, everybody has a different timeline. Mm-hmm. So even if you're 50 and you want to publish, like that's you do it when you're ready.
Yeah.
And so I felt like the universe was aligning the stars for me, and it was just time, and everything worked out exactly how it was supposed to.
Mm-hmm. On your own time with the right people, because you never
Definitely.
know. Yeah, you never know if like you would have done it when you were 17 or in a younger age. You don't know if you would have had a team like Molding Messengers, or someone like Jax that, you know, would help you take it to that level that you have envisioned. That's something that like I can relate to in a sense when it comes to the podcast. I've known I wanted to do this since I was like 12 years old. And I didn't start it until 4 years ago. I'm 30. I'm going to be 33 this year. And it's something that I didn't start until I was like damn near 20. I was 29, 28 when I started it. And that to me, like, it blows my mind because it's just like, dang, like, I wish that I would have started it when I was younger, but I went through so much that made me not only the woman that I am today, but also the podcast host that I am today, because the experiences that the experiences that I went through before I decided to make the decision of this is what I'm going to do, I wouldn't be able to speak on so many different things that I can speak on now freely because I didn't experience them before. I hadn't experienced being broke or being heartbroken or having to let go of that guy that you love, but you're not happy, like not with him, but you're just not happy. So how can I be happy with you if I'm not even happy with myself? Like I had to go through that. I had to go through so many different things so that I can read these poems and feel them in a different way so that I can have this type of conversation with you. So like how you said, everybody's timeline is different. And just because, listen, this is from my 30 and over club. Listen,
If you're 30, that don't mean nothing. Like we're in our prime, okay?
Like, that doesn't mean nothing. Like when I was younger, I of course thought that 30 was like, damn, that's kind of old. But like now being 30, because of course you're like 6, 7, 8 years old. So when your aunts and uncles are over 30 years old, you're like, dang, y'all old. And then you realize when you get older, they weren't even 30. They were like in their 20s, mid 20s. Listen, like the 30 and over, like that, I feel like all of the experience that you go in your 20s, like once you get to 30 years old, it's just like I always say it that it's just like your the fuck it meter just goes up. You're just like, fuck that, I'm not gonna go through that.
I completely agree. I feel like you have to go through a lot to get to that point that you can do it. You can do what you want to do. You have to experience things. If I didn't experience half the things I've experienced, I would not have been able to write this whole book. Yeah. And I feel like the universe will give you exactly what you need when you need it, when it's time. And you can't force it. You can't rush it. Just like you said, if you didn't go through all the things you went through, your podcast probably wouldn't be as interesting. Who knows, you know? And so it was just the right time for you. And I feel like when you get to 30, you've been through a lot of heartbreaks, you've been through different jobs, and it's to a point where it's like, okay, I need to do something for me that makes me happy, whether it's writing a book or doing a podcast or whatever it is. It just gets to a point where, and I believe your 30s, that's your prime, especially for us women. Like that's our prime. That's when we really start to live and really start to experience ourselves. Yeah. So I definitely think that everything happens when it's supposed to.
Hav's gonna be joining the 30 club this year. Yep.
I'm gonna be in, dog.
Welcome to the club.
Welcome to the club.
You'll love it
here. You love it here. Listen, it's fun over here. Rashida, let everybody know where they can find you. Plug in your social media, Instagram, Twitter, wherever it is that they can find you, and where they can find the book once it drops on March 15th.
You can find me on Instagram. It's shi.da. My Twitter is Shida_Kelly with an I. My Facebook, you probably won't be able to find me because I'm unsearchable. What else? The book drops on March 15th. It will be available on all platforms, Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, Apple. You can actually pre-order it. You can pre-order the ebook right now on Apple, Google Play, and Amazon. So make sure you go get that. The hard copy the link is coming soon. Waiting on Jax. I will also be having a book release party in Miami on March 13th. So if you're in Miami,
I think I saw that because I want to say I saw that. Where is it that you guys are gonna have it? Do you
My
have a
friend
location?
actually, yes, it's going to be in Miami Gardens
Okay.
on 172nd and 27th Ave. It's my friend owns a store there.
Nice.
Adelia Apparel, yes. So he's letting us use his space, so I can do the party. It's just gonna be a celebration, really. I will have books on hand. There'll be food, drinks, just celebrating the release of the book.
Some 90s R&B.
Definitely, yes. I have DJ Lucky C as my DJ, so he will be there as well.
Nice.
Yes.
How exciting. Rashida, I wish you nothing but the best, nothing but success. I know that this book is going to impact many, many lives. You put this book in the right hands to do that. So like I said, I just wish you nothing but success. Thank you for being so transparent, not just here on the podcast, but in the book, and for sharing your life and for putting your feelings on paper like that. Listen, that to me is very, very brave, and you're a very brave and beautiful woman. And like I said, I wish you nothing but success. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Like, you could have, listen, you're a mom. I know you work. You could have been anywhere else doing something else, and you decided to spend some time with us. And for me, that is something that money can't buy. So I truly, truly, truly appreciate for having you here. Did you, you can go ahead and say bye. I'm going to go ahead and do the outro so we can go ahead and wrap this thing up.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And, after the book drops, if you want me to come back, I'm more than willing.
Listen,
I really had fun. This is my first podcast, and I really enjoyed it. So
first
you.
of many. Perfect. Okay, once you're part of the Ambition Hour podcast family, you're more than welcome to come back.
You can't get out.
Like all of any book that you drop, or if you just want to come, or one time you're in Miami and we can get it done to where you can come to the studio.
Oh, definitely,
and
yes.
we can do that. I would love that. I would love to feel your presence and energy in person. Sure. And with that being said, guys, remember we are still in a pandemic, so make sure that you wash your hands, wash your ass, drink your water, and mind your business. For the 198th time in a row, it's your girl Claudia Renee on your airwaves with my co-host Half 600 and our beautiful guest Rashida. Make sure you guys go ahead and get her book that drops on March 15th. It's a Moody Messengers production. And we are out of here. Peace, y'all. I'm straight. She's still on, right?
Yeah, do you want